Okay, hi, hello. It has been a minute since I've done one of these, so I figured that I would take the time that I have today. We don't have band practice because we just had a show yesterday, so today is an off day that way. So I would like to make the most of it and actually get some of my things done. The things that it takes energy to get into. So it's hard to just do them, randomly at the end of a work day or, before work or whatever. When there's other stuff going on, it's nice to be able to kind of put my energy, actually invest my full energy into the things that I do. That's what I've been working on lately. I don't know if anybody else has been feeling that, but prioritizing those types of things that way, figuring out how to balance out a proper, schedule or prioritization list of all of my, duties, responsibilities, and end goals, as well as, my self-care and other care and future goal processes, putting them all together and figuring out, what I need to focus on and when in order to have everything kind of move in flux as much as possible. It kind of feels like that's just the energy of things currently. It's funny because, I don't know. I know this year has already felt really wild for everybody, but in such weird ways. I think since 2020, things have kind of been feeling weird every year in different ways for everybody. And, we all process it differently, but I think that we're essentially going through the same sort of thing at this point. I think we're all pretty well integrated. It's gotten to the point where there's very little that other countries are doing that we aren't somehow aware of or involved in at this point. So even on just an energetic level, internationally, we're all really feeling the vibes. The vibes have been wild, and our magnetic poles are shifting, and everything socially is evolving in different ways because of the institution of different AI systems and stuff like that too. That's really just changed things. It set certain things apart. Cheeto, I need you to quit. Sorry, but you can't be doing that. Sorry, there's a cat. Yeah, things have, So it's interesting because after 2020, a lot of people went through this phase of kind of just shutting down in general. And a lot of people just never came back from that. But it's almost I guess it's come in phases. It's kind of been consistently people kind of shutting down. And it's almost like all of these things have been happening in life to drive people into the point of shutting down. And it's really dependent on our own personal manifestations that way. What is it that we are manifesting for ourselves that would entice us to close ourselves off to our highest selves, to our greatest potentials, to, our most sustainable sense of community and future. For some people, it's being able to receive all of the fame and fortune and everything that they've always wanted. There's more people with more money than there's ever been. There's more people with fame, you know, glory, all of these different types of things, nice houses, nice cars, the capacity to be able to, like, afford all of these different, you know, body modifications and different stuff like that than there's ever been. There's more people. It's an interesting one because so many of those things got lassoed into the idea of it takes money to pay for such things, and thus they became valuable as the idea of money rose to the point where there's things that, like, used to not be as popular. Most people weren't desiring those things that desire those things now because they are considered valuable now because it costs a lot of money for them. So that's the allure for a lot of people, and they don't even realize it. You know, there's many people who are struggling with different types of insecurities that are encouraging them to make certain changes to their physical selves in order to feel okay with their selves internally. And that's one subject. And really the issue there then is insecurity, and it's really a psychological issue, and it's something emotional, and it's something likely coming from childhood trauma that can be worked out and should be worked out in society so that we're not creating a shallow society. We're actually hearing out the plights of others and of every individual, and we're making accommodations to resolve those issues. But then you have all of these people that, like, it's not even that they hate themselves. They're just trying to fulfill a status. It's not that there's something inside of themselves that they're innately insecure about, outside of the fact that there's a status they're not able to appeal to. It's more than just this shallow appearance of, like, I just want to look away because every time I look at this, I feel like shit about myself. It's not like that. It's like, oh, that's what people who are doing well and have money and are, you know, this or that have, then I'm going to have that. It's like this weird type of envy. I would say that that's probably what that is envy as compared to, I think that it's almost like a malice is what the initial one would be, is this self-loathing, but this externalized, like, oh, this is how. Because the thing about the self-loathing, or when it's coming from just a coping, when people want to change themselves externally to fix what they're struggling with internally, that's a natural process. That's something that we tend towards naturally. That's the point of sentience, or at least the use of it, is to be able to hold us accountable to ourselves so that we can become aware of those things, so that we can become aware of ourselves, and so that we can hold ourselves accountable and make proper adjustments. It's not adhering to this standard. Like, the whole issue is that, like, if the reason that the standard exists, that, like, you have to have a waist that's this big and an ass that's this big, you can even see how far out my my arms are going, you know, is that, like, and that, like, so you're willing to do whatever you can to yourself physically in order to meet that standard. The difference is that is an innate appeal. That's fundamentally appealing to this. It's not just a shallow concept. It's actually a very deep concept that is extremely domineering, like extremely, like dictatorial, authoritarian. Like, it literally has this concept of this is you're not good enough. This is what good enough is, and like, do whatever you can to get to that. And, like, it becomes the rat race, like, of you know, who has enough money and status, and who knows the right people, and who has the right different qualities naturally, you know, to be able to get into, well, the point is that it's supposed to be who has those skills naturally. It used to be about breeding, but it's all about money now, because money is what matters. It used to be that, like, you had to be physically appealing according to a certain standard, as well as, like, be a certain level of intelligent, as well as be, like, talented in sports, talented in math, talented in music and writing and the arts, and have all of these different qualities on top of being able to manage all of these different assets and have all of this different money. It wasn't just status as a shallow concept. There used to be this idea of, like, the reason people had those things was because their lifestyle maintained a certain standard that dictated that. But what it's become is something super shallow, where, like, now anybody can pretty much become this idea of a royal, as long as they can afford it, as long as, you know, they set themselves up right in a certain way where they can appeal to this certain shallow standard, then they're it. Where, like, it used to be all of these different things where, like, it took having it in your blood and being born into it and then being raised according to it from the time that you were born, like, and now it's just, oh, anybody can do it, and you can buy, you know, we're shopping like a billionaire, like, anybody can do it, which is great on the surface, except that it's actually degrading to the people, because it's kind of like, I mean, it's taking away the entire idea of the reward of hard work. And I know that this is a common argument. I don't know where this is coming from. I know that this is a common argument, like, politically. I'm not trying to make a political stance here for one side or the other. I'm talking metaphorically and, like, in the sense of how we are internally and how we are socially. Where our political system is it's all literally just a reflection of where we are morally, spiritually, communally, like, you know, socially, just with each other. It's not the only reason that our politics are able to appear to be a way or be a way at all is because of our allowance of those things. So it's really determined on our, you know, where we're standing within ourselves and within our communities and within our nation, you know. So I just want to put that out there, because, like, I don't make political statements. What I'm talking about is literally the idea where it's like, okay, we were watching this show the other day, and there's a character who's, like, they're very masculine. All of the so it's like a Star Trek type show, right? All of the characters are different races of aliens. There's a lot of noise happening. Sorry, the generator's on and now the chickens are screaming. Hopefully you can hear me. But yeah, so we're watching the show, and there's this character who's, like, really strong, and he's trying to open walnuts and can't open them using the thing, and he can't figure out how to use this human utensil, the nutcracker. And his husband's making fun of him about it. Like, they showed you, can't you figure it out? He's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then there's this other alien whose species is super, super strong. And she comes up and she's like, do you want me to break that for you? Which at first I'm thinking, like, oh, haha, okay, cute. But at the same time, like, it's fine. And it's funny because, like, she can just do it easier. At the same time, it's kind of showing that, like, once you're strong enough, you can do it. When really there's just a trick to it. So it wouldn't be accurate regardless. Anyways, but what she does to help him out, because she's really just being a dick, is she takes the walnut and she crushes it in her hand and then just pours it in his hand and goes, "You're welcome," and then walks away. And he's just sitting there like, and what I was thinking is like, okay, first off, it's that concept of teach a man to fish, right? That wasn't helpful at all. And that was the point. She's just being a dick. But like, I mean, that's kind of how we do things in society. Like, it's like, oh, you can't do that? I can do that. Look how good I can do it. And then just walking away, and it's like, I literally need to be able to do this thing in order to save my life, and instead of, I mean, okay, it's like if we were all playing Mario, right? But we're all playing it on like this grand, this virtual reality. And if like you see somebody that's struggling in a part that you've already absolutely mastered, right? You already know how this goes, but they're struggling with it. And you've already watched so many people struggle with it, but you know different tricks. And it's like either watching them struggle or giving them a couple tricks, you know? It's not that you have to give people little tricks or that you have to give them tips or that you have to show them how it's done. But at the same time, and like it's, you know, to each their own, and you're not going to be able to do it for everybody anyways. I don't necessarily think that like standing in one place and teaching a thing just so that people can get through it is always some admirable thing, because I think it's really determined that way on, you know, what the person teaching it is doing it for. There's certain lessons we have to learn that are not easy, they're not fun, and they cause some sort of damage. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. The point is that it's teaching us the healing process. We can't heal unless we're hurt. And, you know, not that life doesn't hurt us innately. Being born is like an extremely traumatic experience, but the idea is that there's a refining that is consistently happening within our character and our qualities in our core throughout our experiences, particularly when they're negative, because our preset determination is that things should be positive. And it's not false, but it's this idea that in the most essential aspect of reality, all things are good. It's only in the personal experience and then perception of those things that good and evil start to exist. And it's like about trying to remove ourselves from those things so that they're not disempowering us, right? So that they're not like good and evil, because you can be so senselessly devoted to being good. And that doesn't mean that you're good. You know, that doesn't make it good. Just like you can be senselessly devoted against evil, and that doesn't make it good. You know, it's really about, you know, so intention is like what will lead you down the road to hell, because it really isn't the thing that should drive you, but intention is also extremely important. It's almost like you have to work backwards. When you determine what the intention behind something is, you can step back from that and then be able to determine, based on the intention, where the heart of the matter is, and then go from there how to deal with it. If you find out that somebody has evil intentions, against you, the best option wouldn't be to be evil back to them. Because if your issue with them is that they're being evil, and you choose to then be evil, do you see the logic of that? You're literally the space that existed in your reality that you were like, that's a negative space. And it's negative because when you experience it, it doesn't feel good. And I don't like that. And I don't want to experience that. And I want to do what I can to stop experiencing that, which is all reasonable. And then surmising. So I'm going to take that space that's over here, that's negative, and it's making me feel away because I'm receiving it this way. And I'm just going to put it over here so that I can kind of receive it a different way, and that way I can interact with it a little bit different, and that's going to fix everything. That should be good. It may fix everything for you if you don't have to interact with the thing directly. It may. At least for a time. But that doesn't stop the issue. That doesn't resolve anything. And ultimately, even if that helps in that one issue, the idea of only helping yourself when there is an issue isn't ultimately going to serve you, because the issues are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger if they're not being properly assessed and resolved. And if we aren't building the knowledge and skill within ourselves in order to be able to experience these things openly and honestly and vulnerably, and to assess them accurately, to receive them, to let them go, to remove ourselves from them in order to be able to analyze them, to be able to interact with them without taking them on to ourselves or a sense of identity. That's ultimately, I think, the biggest point of our experiences. If we don't take the time to do that, we're going to end up not being able to recognize future experiences that are even more sophisticated, because as we age, our perception and our reality is gaining quality over time. There's no way it can't, because we're gaining experience over time, and we're literally moving through space. And so as that's happening, it's degrading the experience if we aren't actively engaging with that data. That's just how it works. It's literally like a computer. It requires a certain processing in order to save certain things. It's like as if it was set on a setting where, like, okay, I'm just going to receive everything. I'm just going to receive it all. I'm going to process everything very quickly, like before you even think about it. And that way, I can then immediately, as a computer, like the computer can then send a prompt that asks if you want the thing to be saved or not. And that actually is like what we tend to actually experience. It's more of a memory, if anything, but that's what we're actively experiencing. Not even the experience itself, but our response to it. When the prompt comes up and it's asking us to interact, what do you want to do? Do you want to save this? How do you want to respond? Is this something that you want to? Because the second that you save it, it asks where you want to put it. Which file you want to put it in, where do you want to save it. So then you're figuring out how you want to interact with it. Where in your life do you want these things to be? Like, we're literally programming our lives with our interactions and our experiences and our thought processes. Our belief systems. Okay. That was like 20 different rabbit trails. I didn't finish any of them. I'm trying to bring them all back to something specific. I can't figure out exactly what we're talking about. I don't know where all of that came from, and I don't know, like my voice, sorry. We were singing yesterday. I was up late, ended up sleeping in, which I normally don't do. And I smoked this morning, so my voice is a little shot. And I'm kind of just all over the place. But, okay, I guess, I don't know how to bring all of that together. I don't know where all of that was coming from. Hopefully there was weird information in there that y'all needed, whoever's watching this. Or maybe whatever I just said is going to come up in this. I honestly don't remember. It's not that I don't remember, I just don't know where I was going with those different ones. I like kept thinking of different ways to hook it together, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So, I'm just gonna put it all in the back of my head. I'm gonna start this as if I just pulled these cards out, and whatever I was just talking about may or may not come back. So, okay, don't know what to tell you. We're 30 minutes into the reading, and we're just gonna start from the beginning with this. Okay. So immediately, especially because of that, I am getting these like chaos vibes. This card is like slightly slipped off of the deck, and I want to take it at some point or do something with it. But what it's making me think right off the bat is something being off. Just not quite being... and we're talking about, like, yeah, I was talking about, like, shallow concepts. And even our definition of shallow. And our propensity for, like, identifying ourselves by extremely shallow standards naturally. So it's not something to, like, demonize or damn ourselves about, but because we do tend to do that, we tend to, like, shut ourselves off to it, and then it just keeps getting worse. We're like, if we held ourselves accountable to it, and took responsibility for those things, and just addressing ourselves and knowing ourselves properly, we'd be able to genuinely resolve a lot of these issues. It wouldn't just be this surface thing. Because, like, I can move this card back onto the top of this deck to make the deck straight. But we still have the cards down here, and the fact that there's cards down here is what's causing a reading. Like, this is what's going to actually be the reading. This card slipping off the deck isn't technically even part of the reading, but it's the first thing that started talking to me and calling out to me. Like, it's very insistent, so it's like, it makes itself to be important when really, like, there's something not completely separate, because it's part of it, but it has a whole different vibe. Like, a whole different vibe. Like, it's almost like this idea of, like, it's weird, because I've been wondering, like, why the universe is doing this thing with me where it literally feels like it's, like, shaking me. I'm like, what the fuck? But it's like, then I'm sitting here and I'm constantly talking about the shaking of wheat so that the chaff falls away. The shaking of a person back and forth, shaking them back and forth to wake them up, to be like, get rid of all of that sleep. Get all that stuff, like rubbing the shit out of your eyes, like getting the bugs out, brushing the knots out of your hair. It's this idea of, you know, it's like, when I look at it like that, then I understand it better. But it's been this feeling of that, like, it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? Like, I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was doing it right. I was being told that I was, like, in alignment, that I was doing things right. I really felt like, and, like, because of that, like, because of feeling like I was genuinely, like, doing what I felt like where I fit. Like, I felt like everything was in flow. I felt like I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing at the time I was supposed to be doing it, just based on the magnetism of it. And it was weird for an extended period of time, but it was all, like, I was very much in tune, like, okay, I know what I'm doing. But that started to, like, get weird. Started to get really, really weird around, like, the end of the year, like, around the holidays, like, around Halloween. And it started to get really weird. And now, so, like, it started to get really weird because there was so much going on and everything was like becoming very chaotic. But I was aware of that, and I already had been like received in my prayers and meditations that that was to be expected. I'd actually even talked to my roommate about it, where I was like, things are gonna get crazy, like really weird for people, and I was like, and crazy like in a way that like it's gonna be very different. Like what people think crazy has been, where it's like, oh, all this is chaos. Like this is what chaos feels like, versus high energy anxiety and stuff like that. Like this, what people think they know stress to be, like all of these different types of things, like it's gonna shift and it's gonna be like something more subtle, but somehow deeper and like more personal, and people are just going to be closing off. But at the same time, like those that aren't given to being closed off are going to be elevated and going to continue to elevate. And he kind of thought he understood what I was talking about, at least. I thought he kind of understood what I was talking about. But, you know, we've been moved into this state of like, okay, so it's like the wheat, the wheat thing, where like wheat's grown up and its job was literally just to like be strong and just grow. Just be strong and just grow. That's it. Just keep doing it. Like through anything that I put you through, whatever storms happen, whatever crazy animals come flying into this field or come crawling in here and plucking off all your buds and shit, whatever, like whoever comes in trying to rip up the fields or whatever, just keep trying, just be as strong as you can and keep growing. And then it gets to the point of like, okay, now, great job. You did it. Like, you were good wheat. You were good. You did it. You were great. You're the best wheat I've ever seen in my life. I'm so excited. Cut you down at the knees. Now you're getting harvested. This is what it was for. The whole point was for you to literally get chopped down at your ankles, for you to literally just get broken completely down into bits and tossed into the back of this tractor that just like grinds you up and then into little tiny pieces and then throws you into a giant vat with all of the other good pieces, where like you don't even mean anything anymore. Now you're just like this like big pile of wheat, right? And it's like, that's what good wheat does, and then that's what good wheat does, and then, you know, it's like the shaking is when you shake a stalk of wheat, there's chaff, there's the like growth that grows up with the wheat in order to help make the wheat strong, but that isn't the wheat and isn't the hardy part of the plant actually attached to the stalk. It's like the little like stuff on the outside, so it gets shaken off. It's all the stuff that like, this wasn't really part of you, this was just there to help you grow, this was just there to keep you safe, this was just there to keep you close to the stalk, to keep you growing, to keep you grounded. The stalk is what keeps you grounded, you know, and it's, you know, these are the things that helped you know yourself, helped you gain access to the things that you need in order to grow. But eventually you have to let them go. And because if you hang on too much of it, if you like can't be separated from the chaff, it doesn't matter how good of wheat you seem to be, you're useless, because the chaff isn't the nutrient, it isn't the thing that has nutrients, and it can't be processed the same way that wheat is. So it just ruins the wheat if it can't be separated. So like all of that work you're doing to be so great, whatever that means to you, if you can't separate yourself from the things that like aren't truly you at the end of the day, the whole you gets thrown away. You know, that's the shame of it. And that's like on an energetic level that we're talking about. And I've recognized that, and that's what's so crazy about this, because it's like that idea too, where it's like, what I'm seeing at this time is, you know, what it looks like when there is a stalk of wheat that, like, I mean, it's good wheat, but, like, it's grown up with a lot of chaff. And, like, to the point where, like, the wheat that's on there is good, but it's coming down to, like, how much good is there to make it worth, like, is it worth tossing it in with the rest of the wheat? It is good wheat, but is there enough of it? You know? It's not like there's some standard, there's not an external standard that way like there is with a farmer. I am the farmer, you know, so, like, I'm my own God. Like, I set the standard, I complete the standard, I fulfill it. Like, it's my highest power that determines what my highest power is. And, my highest power that determines what my highest power is. We're always doing this thing where we're seeing things from two different perspectives, and, like, it's kind of like this, man. We're looking through two eyes at once. We always are assuming, we're always receiving one reality. And we're receiving it at the same time, simultaneously, through both of our eyes that are set right next to each other. So the understanding, the receiving, becomes synthesized immediately. There's this idea that we're just receiving one visual, when really, the way that the eye works is that there's light shining into it from outside, and the light shines into it, into the back of it, hits the back of it, and then is projected back into the lens like a TV screen, and then the eye is receiving it from the front, is receiving that projection, but it's shooting it around in order to be able to see that. And that's what we're seeing. We're not actually seeing outside of it. We're actually seeing just right at the level surface of the eye. That's why we live in this weird double dimension. That's just the physics of the third dimension. That's literally just how it works. It's just what it is. It's weird. It's wild because we haven't been taught that for specific reasons. But that's just the way that things work. So everything is doing this, like, weird, like we have to be able to determine. That's the point of, like, we have both a subconscious and a consciousness. Like, we have to be able to determine what is and what isn't. And that's the point of all of our senses. That's the point of our cognizance. That's the point of our emotionality. That's the point of our capacity to elicit empathy, even, which is such a strange one, because, like, an infant can do that. Like a newborn infant, like the second a baby is born, like before a baby's even born, actually. I mean, from the time of conception, there are people fighting, willing to kill over the fact that that baby's life is, like, extremely valuable. Like, we can elicit empathy long before we are even aware of our own selves. So that's wild. This is so weird. I don't know why my brain is doing this, where, like, I can't put any of this stuff together. It's just all these random quips. Like, this is so random. Also random. And I know I haven't really gotten into this yet. I'm sorry. this is such a weird read. It's likely because it's been so long since I've done it, and I'm sorry for that. It just is so awkward. I live in a loft, so like, I don't want to disturb the people living here. You know, my roommates, like, are my friends, but like, it's also like weird for them to like sit and hear me do something so personal, I feel like, and like, it's open. It's an open loft. They can hear the stuff that I do. There's the generator on, but like, I just don't like being disturbing. It's awkward for me, and then I get embarrassed. I like hyperthink, like, and they're cool with it. I did it with them. Literally did it with them. But like, I get in my head because I can like hear myself talking, and then I hear like, I just think of what it sounds like to them, and then I get all anxious. So maybe it's just something I need to work better on. But I've also been, we were busy preparing for the show and stuff like that and work, and I've just been feeling really weird. Been feeling weird. I don't know how anybody else has been feeling, but for me it was hormones. But at the same time, like, energy has been, I've largely influenced the energy lately because I've been hormonal, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, so I apologize. Whatever random stuff is coming out, I really do hope that whoever is listening is getting whatever they hear, whatever they need out of it. You know, maybe 4 different people will listen to this, and it'll just like be super random something, and they'll be like entertained just because they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and then all of a sudden I'll just say something that like hits. And you know, if that's the case, then maybe go back and find where that was in the video, like rewind it and find where that was and write down what it was that I said. I don't remember. This is just coming out of me, so I don't. And I'm putting out here I'm putting it out here for the fact that this is something that I do naturally, and I feel like the universe has me do it so that other people can receive it. So like, this is how I put it out there for others to receive it. So if you receive it, you know, that's great. It's great, and it's for you. You know, so take it, keep it. It's yours. Maybe I will come back to it at some time. That's the reason I do these things still for free, and haven't tried to like make a bigger production out of it. There's been a lot of different reasons for a lot of different things, but I still don't. I don't generally like to, even with any of my work, I do so much for free because or for very little for tips, you know what I mean? Like, I just accept tips because it's not me. Like, anything that I can do for somebody else, if I'm happy to be in a time and place and have that skill, quality, or asset, resource for a person, like, that is the grace of the universe, having put all of those things together. You know, that's pure luck. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with me, my generosity to be able to give things and stuff like that. Like, it's great when people can recognize those things and appreciate those things that way. But like, ultimately, like, I don't know. I don't need stuff to be so personal. I don't like things to be so personal. I'm just trying to channel stuff through me, you know. Whatever I have is for whoever needs it and whoever receives it, you know. That's something I struggle with even. It's like having my own personal things, my own personal, like, preferences or desires or end goals that don't appeal to the community, because like, I just feel like I'm here to serve, not even myself. So like, I struggle with that. It's like, if I serve myself, like, I'm gonna find a partner and settle down and do something. I could essentially do the same thing, but it scares me to have a partner. The idea of having a committed partner, because it's like, it takes away from, I used to tend to be so codependent. So if you're like being triggered into codependent behavior, you know, in a partnership, as I'm trying so hard to get on top of all of these goals that I have. You know, I don't wanna live my life and then die having not applied myself the ways that the universe was asking for me to. You know, there's things that the universe is literally like, hey, we've given you these experiences for a reason, we've given you these qualities for a reason, we've taught you these things for a reason. We want you to show people that they have that same thing going on, that this is how it works for people, is that everybody has their personal experience of this reality for a reason. Like, that personal experience is extremely valid, extremely important. However they're experiencing it, whatever they want to do with it, anything they fucking want, but they, like, please understand how important it is. Like, the thing itself, like, experience it, feel it, like, it's yours, and you are important, and, like, this isn't just about right here, right now. So what I'm getting is that, like, there's a huge chaotic energy, like a weirdly potent chaotic energy, but so much of it is coming from so much of the power of it is coming from my perception that chaos equates to what I cannot control, or equally that what I cannot control equates to chaos, when in reality there's an image I saw the other day where it depicted structure, and it was a pine tree branch, like a little pine tree snippet, where, you know, it has like the stick and a couple sticks coming off like this, right? But each one of these has all of these different little spines coming off, right? All of the different pine needles coming off of it. And there's 3 of them, you know, so it looks kind of like that's how a pine tree looks, right? So it's very, very, like, complicated looking, and, you know, it's all over the place seeming, and takes on this whole, you know, weird shape and stuff like that, kind of, because of that. But that one was labeled structure. And then there was one next to it that was labeled chaos, and it was all of the pine needles plucked off of the stems, and the stems removed from each other, and the stems were laid next to each other, and then all of the pine needles were laid up in rows. And it was so funny, because for that to be the image for chaos, something so disciplined, something so structurally accurate, something so, like, disciplined that way, like something so geometrically sound, it was so strange to see that as chaos, and to see something naturally all over the place with seemingly no order being defined as structure. But it's such a beautiful concept, because that really is the energy that we're in right now, and the energy that we've been moving into. And, like, I've talked about it in past videos, but, like, we are in a different timeline. Like, we are in a different time and space. Like, physics is not working the ways that it always has for us, because our ideas and understandings of it have changed so drastically. And because of that, even things like this have changed. They haven't. They're becoming revealed, is what's happening. The way they've always been and the way that we've always perceived them has actually been illusionary. And that wool is being lifted from our eyes, and we're realizing that things are actually almost innately the opposite as to how we've been perceiving them. And it's generally throwing people for a loop, myself included. To see things seemingly disorganized or chaotic, or with, you know, out of order, like I said, like this is out misaligned, and to denote that as chaos. When in reality, it is the disorder, the what is not in alignment. There is no set alignment. That's a perception in of itself. So the things that are perceived to be in misalignment of that perceived alignment become the focus, and those things are in of themselves the very read, right? So like without that, without these cards having flipped out the way that they did, and I don't know if you were paying attention when I was flipping these. When I was flipping these two cards came out, they just flipped out on top of the deck, and I put them back for a second, and I was like, you know what, they flipped out, I'm gonna just put them down. They weren't even, I was like in the middle of talking about stuff when they came out. And then this one came out when I was actually flipping for a card, and then I just got busy talking, so I just put this down, and this one happened to slip on top, so I'm gonna take this one as well. That wasn't chaos. That was structure. Just because I wasn't in control of it doesn't mean it's chaos. Just because you're not in control doesn't mean that it's chaos. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's an unknown. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? And so we're coming into this idea of being able to hold ourselves self-accountable based solely on that math. That it is not in the shallow function, but in the, geez, it's almost even more shallow, but like it's not in the shallow function, but it is in the basic intent, which is like such a slight difference. It's the difference of perception. My perspective remains the same. I haven't moved. I'm not adjusting my perspective. I'm adjusting my perception. My perception at first was that these things were chaotic because they're just falling into this type of thing. You know, the idea that like looking at a pine tree branch, it looks chaotic because it's all sorts of sporadic. But changing your perception is to realize that chaos is to remove something from itself, to completely disassemble thing, and then to reassemble it in some created structure. Just because that's what, I mean, did it look more aesthetically pleasing and was it geometrically accurate? Yes, but for what purpose? It served no purpose outside of art. So the idea of perfection being based on what's the word I'm thinking of? Like not efficiency, but like it keeps thinking like synthetic, but it's like to have a perfectly straight line. But the thing is that like that doesn't exist in nature. So like if you really want things to be truly sustainable, you can't be basing them off of these rigid structures, because it's not the way that things work in nature. Numbers, the math of things, a great tool for us to be able to understand ourselves, to be able to engage with the world around us in a different way, and to be able to learn. But all it's doing really is teaching our brains to be able to work in a way so that we can understand how to think without it. It's something that needs to be taken away. It's something that needs to be shaken off, the same way religion does. Because ultimately, if you start thinking too much that those are that that's where the standard comes from, you start deluding yourself to the point that you can't even receive the message because you're so focused on, hold on, because I'm talking to myself, so this is really weird to say out loud. You can't even receive the message because you're so focused on what you're perceiving to be chaos. So there's this message, a very personal message. As I was saying that, I just watched a lizard fall from one tree branch to another. Hold on. It's so weird. I'm getting so much energy right now. So like I was getting like all of these different things right, and I kept trying to bring them together, and it just wasn't happening. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is just chaos. But that's only because like I can't put it all together, or I'm at least not able to right now. And I'm getting this reflection that like that's kind of the point. That's the point. That like it's not about being in control of the thing. It's like letting it happen. Like you literally have to like let certain things happen. And just trust that you did the work, that, you know. And that's what I was thinking earlier, that so it's weird because I feel like I've been being shaken around, having to move around and having to do all these things, and then like I just moved, and then I've been feeling this way of like, but I'm not settled. But it's because the universe is trying to show me that to like stop focusing on where I'm at and to start focusing on what I'm doing. So there's this idea of, you know, if you feel like you can't really catch a breath, like things are moving very, very quickly and you don't even really know like where to begin with a project or, you know, certain something that you're working on. The idea is like, just take the step back of changing that perception that way, where it's like, okay, I can't change the fact that the cards came out this way, or that this is what it is. This is what a reading looks like. It'd be silly for me to literally be like, I'm gonna do a reading, and then to like that is crazy of me to like be like, I'm gonna do a reading, but then like the way that the cards are falling out feels like chaotic, where it's like, this is literally how a reading works. That's not chaos. This is what it requires. Like, that's so it's almost like to say like we're doing this thing, we're like the very thing that we need to do in order to make everything work, we're telling ourselves like, that's silly, we're not going to do that, or that's crazy, or that doesn't make any sense, when like the whole point of it is for it to not make sense, so that other things can make sense and come into light. It's right. That is literally the point. It's funny because I was talking this morning about, or I was talking last night to one of my roommates, my friend's wife, about the Tao and like how it, you know, does that. Sorry, I'm just super distracted by this lizard. How it doesn't try to tell you what to think. It tries to help you to learn how to think, so that you can think for yourself. it doesn't want you to just reiterate the things that it says. It doesn't want you just to use it like mantras. It's not trying to parade itself about in a way that like, oh, these are the words that you need. It's the opposite. It's trying to say like, don't worry about the words, worry about like the heart of the matter, worry about like how your brain is working, worry about like who you are and what you can do with that. Like, I can lead you to water, but I can't force you to drink. Like, I can show you the way, but I can't, like, no. Sorry. But I can't force you to go down it. You know, like this has to be this personal thing that each of us is doing. It just has to be. I mean, it literally will be. There's no way around it. We're all manifesting, like I said earlier, we're all manifesting our very own personal hells in heavens in the same way. It's like a mixture between, I don't know if you ever saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Pretty sure it was that one where they were in their own house. But that was great. So it's like a mix between that and then I don't know if you ever read or saw The Lovely Bones. No. Was it The Lovely Bones? Yeah, and she's like in heaven and like everybody in heaven has their own heaven. It's kind of like that. Only it's happening right here, right now, all the time. That's what reality is. These are all just ways to describe reality. Nobody can, we literally can't speak from the other side. This is us speaking from the other side. The only way that we can receive things in the third dimension is third dimensionally. This is why we have to shake math off. It's become limiting at this point. Of course, I'm talking from like 30 years in the future, but we're not far off. I say 30 years, that's an assumption that things are going to continue to progress at the rate in which they have. There's no actual telling. So that's not a word of prophecy, that's an estimation. I'm just going to smoke this. Sorry, I guess I probably shouldn't. I need to just take this out after an hour of doing the video, but this video's been weird anyway. It's already been an hour and I haven't even gotten into the reading. I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna be back. Hold on. Okay. Let's get into this reading. These two cards came out first, but this one fell out slightly on top. The way that these fell out has been extremely, like, important this entire time, this exact setup. So I don't want to mess with it as is yet. I'm just still getting these weird vibes. This card is still, like, really... This card wants to come out first. The Nine of Coins... upright. Okay. The Nine of Coins upright speaks of like being in a time of abundance, a time of like feeling comfortable, feeling at peace, feeling like a sense of reward, a sense of luxury, like, you know, I can kind of sit back and see what I've built. I'm saying it with this weird inflection because there's this weird anxiety that I have in regards to these cards. And it's almost giving me this feeling like even the setup, like the fact that I put this card here, it's like giving me this feeling of this like, okay, so this person's like comfortable, happy, seeing the rewards of their labor, feeling like, oh, I did a good job. Look at me. I can be at peace because I've done it and I'm satisfied. And while they're enjoying this time, there's a lot going on behind them. And it's kind of almost this energy of like it's creeping up on them. But you know what has been on my mind lately is The Man Who Knew Too Little. This movie with Bill Murray, I loved. I watched when I was young, like I was like 11 or 12 the first time I watched it. Loved it. Always loved that movie. And it's so great because like this guy's like completely oblivious to the fact that like this extremely like dangerous international plot is happening around him, and he's actively involved in it and doesn't even know. And he's just like oblivious to it, and he's just like living his life. But because he's oblivious to it, he just keeps like just perfectly interfering, and like everybody thinks he's some type of genius, but it's because he literally doesn't even know. And so it's funny too, because it's giving me that type of energy of like this person being quite contented. The anxiety wasn't coming necessarily from the card. It was just like as I was seeing that this person was in a comfortable space, there was an anxiety of like what was going on right behind the scenes. It's not that this person is unsafe, it's just that they're unaware. And like meanwhile there's like all of this like crazy shit going on in the background. And it's like this anxiety of like being the person watching this, being like, oh my god, I'm seeing it coming, and they're oblivious. It's like about to watch a train wreck, right? I had the privilege of watching my dog get hit by a train, and she survived. She was a 12-pound, oh, she was like 15 pounds at the time. And yeah, it was like watching a train wreck. I did look away though, I'll tell you that. I normally don't think that I would. I think that in my head I thought that I would just like stare like a deer in headlights, not knowing what to do. I covered my ears and turned my head. I was scared. I did not like to see that, but I digress. It's kind of that sort of feeling. That anxiety put an actual strip of gray hair in my head. You can't always see it in certain lighting, and depending on where my part is, but I have a straight up giant strip of gray hair. From that was... So it's like this type of anxiety where it's like, okay, so there's somebody else involved. It's funny because I feel like I'm almost in the energy of this cross-watcher. I'm calling them that. So I'm almost getting the energy of them watching this. And they're watching this other person who, like, it's weird because, like, when I'm in their energy, the reason I'm feeling weird and it's super awkward is because I feel like I'm looking at myself in the mirror. But what I'm looking at is me right now, saying to the person that's watching me, I'm talking directly about them, and this situation is how they're looking at me. So like, it's a weird energy. They're seeing me like doing my own thing. There's no like in this, I'm like doing, but there's an innate anxiety just attached. It's like seeing me at all makes this person incredibly anxious. And like, take from this what you will. I'm just in this energy, so I'm just feeling it. When it comes to you, other person that's watching this that isn't resonating with being the person watching me literally in my actual life, random other person watching this, like this could be you, could be me, you could be the cross watcher, you could be somebody else involved, or this could be don't do that. Did you just drop that glass bottle? Girl, hold on. Okay, so sorry. the cat. Um, so this could be you. This could be somebody you're watching. This could be a sort of super future scenario where it takes on some sort of metaphorical aspect. So it's not necessarily talking about a person. It could be talking about a place, thing, idea, situation. But the energy that I was just in, I'm pretty sure the reason that there was that giant distraction was because this person really doesn't like this. This is really hold on, this is so weird. This is a lot of energy. Let's just talk about this situation. Okay, what's going on behind this person? Okay, so you can only kind of see this on this card. This is the Hermit we have that is technically, it's not really in the reverse. But it's not in the upright. And it's not on its side. None of these are in an alignment. But I was already having that issue with the camera. You know, it's funny, I've been doing carpentry work, and so much of it is based on math. That's why it's so heavy on my head, is because, like, you can be off a fucking, you know, like, eighth of an inch, eighth of a centimeter for certain things, and it can fuck everything up. You know, so, like, or just, you know, then there's all these different adjustments you have to make later on in order to make up for it. And, like, when you realize that something is out of alignment, it's like I was saying, like, there's these two dimensions, right? Like, that you kind of have to go through. The first dimension is like, okay, well, is it square with the table? Or like, well, it was. Is it square with the table? Like, technically, yeah. But the table isn't square with the camera. And I kind of adjusted that before I started recording. But it's still, like, at this slightly weird angle. It's a weird enough angle that when I put these cards down, in order to, and like, because of the way that I'm looking at it as compared to the way that the camera is looking at the page, like, I put these diagonal. Aesthetically, this way it made the most sense, but it throws everything at this weird thing. So I caused this, everything that's been feeling like chaos, I caused. By putting things in a certain way, by putting things in a certain way, maybe there's a certain perspective. Whereas, like, because of that, everything ended up becoming adjacent to me having put that a certain way. You're going to have to take from this personally. Like, you're going to have to, when I say me, again, I could be talking about you, I could be talking about somebody else that you know that I'm talking about, and I'm just talking from their perspective. So take from that what you will. Okay, so the perceived chaos I caused by putting things a certain way. Because when I did that, but these had already fallen, but I kind of put them, these had already fallen. Either way, the chaos is perceived. It's my responsibility. The idea was that the way that I put things down was making things, the way that I put things is making things chaotic, but that's just a perception itself. This is so, okay. That's just a perception itself, because this isn't actually chaotic. One, it's the whole point, is that it's only being perceived to be chaotic, but this is literally what is supposed to happen. My perception was that it's not only chaotic, but that it's chaotic because it's my fault. When in reality, it is chaotic. And that is, it's not that it has nothing to do with me because I'm involved in the chaos. However, well, because I'm adjacent to it. Somehow it's involving me. But interesting, because I'm getting this, okay, when I said that it's somehow involving me, I saw the wand here and the star, and I saw that there's a star here and that there's a star on, there's Lumpy Space Princess on this card. She has a star on her head. And so I see that the star is literally pointed at Lumpy Space Princess and that she has a star on her head. And as I was talking about it being me, and I was like, okay, are they both me? We may be talking about the same person for both of these, or there's one person who is in this energy, and then there's one person who's in this energy. Who, like, is either trying to be like this person or was like this person but isn't anymore and is jealous. But there's like a jealousy thing going on. But the fact that the wand is pointed at them, the star makes me think like they're the star, that they're actually supposed to be, like they're looking and seeing that this person is gaining all this favor, has all these blessings, and that they're, because this card, the Hermit, has Lumpy Space Princess, and she's like homeless. She doesn't look happy about it. She's eating a can of beans. And she's over fire, and it's snowy outside. And she's also, like, looking behind her, like, she looks displeased, but she also looks like, a little paranoid. And then there's this happy, very full of abundance. And it's almost this idea that, like, either it's two different people or it's two different concepts. Like, for myself personally, I know that I have been struggling with this, like, imposter syndrome. And this is kind of what it looks like, to be honest. And it's funny because, like, then we have the Queen of Coins right here. which is 2 snakes in the card. That'll come into play in a bit, but these characters remind me of each other, and it's this idea that, like, neither of these are really reality, to be honest, and maybe that's the issue with the syndrome, because, like, I'm not really as destitute as this card makes the lumpy space princess appear, but I'm also not as contented as the 9 of coins depicts. There's periods of time where it's this, there's periods of time where it's this. There's periods of time where it's not really either of those things, and it's something different and it's great, or it's something different and it sucks, or, you know, it's somewhere in between a spectrum between these two, but it's almost like these would be like the extremes. And so it's almost that this negative concept of self is, or this unbalanced concept of self is coming from a sort of delusional fantasy type way of looking at experiences. Which is a self-protection method and also a self-development technique. Neither are good nor evil. Both have positive and negative qualities, and it's really in how you use them. So we're not saying like, oh, there's being this way, but this is how you're supposed to be. We're saying that these are 2 ways of being, and neither are good nor bad. And there's something to be taken from either of them, especially with this not being in the upright or in the reverse. It's not being definitively one or the other. It's really just trying to show that, like, there's a way of perceiving ourselves as being victimized or being blessed, and just to consciously continue to do our best to focus on this idea of being blessed as compared to being victimized by our experience, that even the worst things are a blessing. The 9 of coins actually depicts a time where, like, it's not the 10 of coins yet, so there's still a time of waiting, there's still a time of harvest that needs to be done, there's still a patience that needs to be had, there's still a part of a process, but it's just being quite contented. And it's almost that's actually where this genuine contentment comes from. It doesn't come from receiving the 10 of cups, it doesn't come from actually receiving all of the things that you've ever dreamed of. It comes from being just before you receive all of those things, being able to just say, wow, even without receiving all of, like, the billions of dollars that I hope to get out of this, or the billions of, you know, life-changing affirmations that I hope to succeed, you know, whatever, like, your end goal is, however it is that you're hoping to change the world with the things that you do, whatever it is, it ends up being an end goal, just feeling okay at the end of the day, whatever it is, like, it's like getting to that, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought, it's like getting to that, being like, I lost my train of thought. Y'all probably know where I was going. If you don't, I'm really sorry. And then it's like, right, I take my bong out in the video. I think that's why I'm all over the place. Maybe, but listen, I'm not making excuses. I didn't smoke for 6 months last year, which, like, probably sounds like big whoop to most people, but I enjoy smoking all the time. So, yeah, I started again, and now I'm just like it. I'm doing it a lot. I am just trying to make excuses. None of this is hitting. listen. I'm not gonna quit right now. Probably. Might slow down. Maybe. Just become more disciplined for sure. I feel like I have to continue making excuses, so. Guys, this is me dealing with guilt. It's awkward, and it's not fun, and it's embarrassing. But it's important. Okay, so these two different ideas, this idea of contentment where like it's not even in getting the thing. It's in seeing, just knowing that you did the work. Just the reward of being like, I did it. Like, look how far I've come. And it's almost like an opposition is this idea where it's like, no matter how far I've come, I feel like it's never good enough. Or like, look how little I have to prove. Or to like, yeah, prove myself or whatever. That's the contrast. And so that's what I'm seeing with this Queen of Coins in the middle too, because it's a double-headed snake, right? So it's giving this idea that like there's this way that both of these things can be quite educational and beneficial to our spirituality and emotionality, but there's also like a way that both of these mindsets can be harmful. It's weird because in this card, like this snake person is becoming one person. They're two snakes in a trench coat, right? They're on a throne, and they have this baby, this little prince baby thing, but it's a frog, and he looks concerned. Underneath that is the Nine of Wands in the reverse. Hold on. It's just like this, okay. Okay. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to pause this. The storage is almost up. This has been a weird video and it's been very long, but I'm realizing that it's about to get really deep. So I'm going to upload this and then I'm going to come back to it. And hopefully the vibe is totally different and we can actually really get into depth and I'm not going to be all over the place. But we're going to take a little breaky break and come back to this one. Alright, thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been at least entertaining. I wouldn't hope that it's beneficial. That would be my highest hope, but I will settle for it just being I'll see you in the next video. Alright, thanks.